Greetings, friends. Today we are going to make a paper weaving. You are going to have a choice of what kind of material you're going to use for making your paper weaving. You can choose to make it out of a cereal box. I wove the back and the front of the cereal box together for this one. So a cereal box or another kind of large box would also work. Something big though, the bigger the better. A pizza box would be amazing. Or you can choose to make your weaving out of junk mail or old magazines. I made this one out of the cover of an old magazine and a piece of junk mail that I got, and I wove them together. As you can see, I put a picture of Keith Urban and with a picture of a house, and that looks amazing. We're going to talk in just a minute about how to order the strips to make sure that the picture turns out correctly. Now make sure you have all your materials gathered up. All you're going to need are these scraps of paper or boxes and a pair of scissors and a pen or a pencil, just something you can use for making little guidelines with so we can measure. Let's gather up our materials and let's get to work. Today, we are going to start by getting our materials. I need a pen or a pencil, 2 pieces of junk mail or boxes or magazines, and I'm going to get my scissors, and the first thing I'm going to do is make both of my pieces of paper the same size. So I'm going to trace around the edge, and then I'm going to cut my larger piece of paper to match my smaller piece of paper. Remember, you can do this with a cereal box or any other kind of box you might have laying around, or some junk mail or ads, magazines, whatever you have that you want to weave together. Now, the picture that I have of the books on the bookshelf is a little bit thicker, so that's the one I'm going to use for the loom. To make the loom, I'm going to fold my paper in half. I'm going to match up those top corners and press and fold the paper. On the side that opens, I'm going to fold down and crease the top flap or the top piece of paper. I'm going to kind of put the word stop at the top to remind myself, and maybe draw along that line that I folded just to remind myself that this is the stop line. I do not want to cut past that line. I am going to start cutting on the side that is folded, not the side that opens, but the side that is folded. So I come down here to the bottom, it's folded, the paper is creased, and I'm going to cut here. I'm going to go to the middle and I'm going to cut straight up to the stop line. Cut carefully and neatly. Try to get a nice straight line. Now I'm going to take those sections and divide them in half. So now I should have 4 cut sections. Remember, do not go past that stop line. Stop at that line. Now let's divide these again into 8 spaces or 8 strips that we are going to be able to weave through in just a minute. Once your loom is complete, go ahead and just set it to the side for right now, and I'm going to get my other picture that I am going to use for weaving. Now I'm going to cut this into strips. I'm going to cut it the opposite direction of the picture. So I'm going to flip it over to the back, and I'm going to cut it going horizontally across the paper, not vertically with the picture. So I want to measure the space to match the size of the pieces that I made before. So I can use this to kind of measure and just mark off where I'm going to cut my lines. That looks good. And I'm going to set that to the side, and I'm going to get my scissors. But before I start cutting my strips, I cut one. That's okay. I can still fix it. I'm going to number them, so that way I know what order they go in, so that way the picture turns out correctly. If you don't number them, it's going to be really hard to keep the picture in the right order. So please take the time to number them before you start cutting them. Number them. I'm going to write a number so I remember which order they go in. Now I can get my scissors and finish cutting all of the strips. It's okay if they're crooked. It's okay if they're not perfectly straight. Do the best you can and cut them as neatly as possible. Try to stack them as you go, but if they get out of order, remember that is why we wrote the number on the strips before we started cutting them. Go ahead ahead and continue cutting them all out. Now let's organize them. I'm going to stack them together, making sure the number is on top of the other numbers so that way they're all turned the correct direction. That looks good. Now I'm going to get my loom and I'm going to start weaving with the first strip. When we weave, it is a simple pattern of over and under. Or you can start with under and then over, under, over, under, over, under, until you have gone all the way across. Try to push it down to the very bottom of the paper. Now the next one starts with the opposite of what the previous one started with. So if the one before it started with under, then the next one starts with over. This will create that checkerboard pattern. You have to alternate when you start the next strip or you will not get that checkerboard effect. That looks good. Push it all the way down. Make sure you're only doing one at a time and continue this process until you have woven the entire picture into the weaving loom. Again, I'm going to alternate when I start. Each strip, I started the last one with over, so this one began with under. If some of the pieces are moving around, you can tape them into place, but before you tape them down, just make sure you have them where you want them to go and they're correctly woven into your picture before you continue. You may not have enough room for all of your pieces, and that is okay. Try to get as many of them in there as you can. Again, make sure they're all nice and straight. Once you are done, go ahead and take a picture of your finished paper weaving and don't forget to upload it and share it on Artsonia.